Hey guys, this is National Master Kevin Yang back at it with another video. So in this video we'll be talking about my game against NiceChessD. So this was a very challenging game, and I have to let you know that I was very close to losing. I know, not very common you might say, but I'm human after all, and humans do lose. I lose a lot. So don't worry. Let's look at it. E4, E5, F4, and D5. So this is what is called the King's Gambit. But it's a very interesting way of King's Gambit. So knight F3, knight F6. And here's C4, C6, D takes C6, but now knight takes. So what I should have played after D4 is probably the move bishop to G4. Forgot about it, but I don't know. Bishop to B4, bishop to D2, and I played castles. So at this point, after D5, I feel like there was something better than just the move rook to E8. So first off, I don't know, rook T8 is an okay move, but apparently the computer is pointing out knight G4 and queen B6, which I don't think is human, because I would not see it at all. I wouldn't think of it as a threat, because I feel like if queen E2 ever happens, it's going to go away right away. So I don't know. But I played rook E8 in the game, and after bishop E2, I played bishop takes, queen takes, and the move knight to E5. So I wasn't sure if this was the best sequence of moves, because to be honest, I didn't really see what else to do here after bishop to E2. Bishop takes, I mean, a lot of suggestions are pointing to bishop C5 and knight to E4, but giving up this knight, I'm not completely sure if I'm really in support of this idea of knight to E4, knight to F2. It could work, but I just don't want to try it. So bishop takes, queen takes, and now I could have played the move knight to E4, suggesting that after queen takes F4, queen to B6, and now the B2 pawn is threatened. So this is what I could have done. But I didn't. I played the move knight to e5. After knight takes, rook takes, castles was played. And I mean, NiceChessD had a brilliant understanding. You didn't have to rush this queen takes f4 because the pawn would be there for you. Except, now I'm not allowing. I played g5. Knight c3, I played bishop to g4. I want our friend NiceChessD to take, and I want to play queen b6 and potentially swing over to h6, but more importantly, double my rooks. So after king h1, I very much considered the move queen to h6, because after queen h6, h3, I have to think, do I play rook to e8, right? But then I have to think, what if d6 happens? So I have to think about this dynamic of, I have this attack, but white has passed pawns. So the more I thought about it, I said, I'm going to bring my rook down. And if you play d6, I'm going to play queen c6, d7, rook to d8, and if you do nothing, I'm going to play rook to e2. So queen to c3 was played, and now rook to e2. And suddenly I feel like I'm in a very good spot to be able to take control of the attack, because after queen to f3, I take on f3, and I take on h2. But I think what I should have done is I should have played rook takes, king g1, and rook e to e2, threatening this checkmate. And after knight to f2, I would have played rook h takes f2. Rook takes, knight takes, king f1, rook d2. And this would have been the much smoother way to win the game. However, I was having some sort of time pressure from another game, if I recall correctly, and I played knight takes h2. I simply calculated, you know what, I might play g4 one day. I have the threat of taking on f3. If the rook moves to f2, I'm going to be okay. But then knight c3 happened, and all got very, very complex. So here I considered a few moves. I considered the move rook takes b2. However, I thought after rook to d1 and d7, I thought I was being a little bit too greedy. Or after rook takes b2, I was considering rook a to b1, right? Saying, you know, if you take, I'm going to take, and I'm going to take b7. So there are very interesting lines. So let me show you what I mean. Rook takes b2, rook a b1, and if knight takes f1, rook takes b2, and if I play b6, there's going to be something with knight e4, knight f6, or even knight takes g5. So I clearly wasn't sure of where I was heading, but I said, you know, I want to preserve my position. In the end, I decided upon knight takes f1, saying after knight takes e2, I was going to play rook takes e2. And to be honest, in my mind, I evaluated this endgame as a win for me. But I was dead wrong. I was dead wrong because the power of the passed pawn here and the power of the queenside majority was extremely strong. My kingside majority, 4 against 1, was just not as powerful because these pawns, they're very quick at darting forward. These pawns, well, the king is in front and it's not easy. So I completely misevaluated this position after rook takes f1. I played rook d2, but then c5 happened. King f8, and then rook to e1, the most important move for white to draw. Because rook to e7 is now a possibility. So now all opportunities or all possibilities are on the board. One day there might be too much activity and white might wipe out the entire queenside, or black might be able to dismantle this pawn structure through some case, but not right now. I play rook d5, b4. Now I play a5, and this is completely losing, and I noticed right after I played the move, because to be honest, even if white plays b takes a5, I cannot take c5 because of the move d7 and this move rook to e8 check. So here a5 was a complete fail. It was a fail, it was a blunt fail. I mean, white could have also played rook to e7 and went for this b7 pawn because there's rook b8 at the end of the day and d7. So I don't know what I was thinking there, but I made a terrible mistake. After a3, takes, and I played h5 because I sort of said, after b5, c6, white is advancing, but I can't do anything about it because number one, my king cannot get over, right? And number two, the rook is pretty much the only defender at this point. I mean, the king might be able to cycle over, but it will be too slow. So white has to take action right away. And here, NiceChessD plays this brilliant move, b5. Now I have to review my options here. Rook takes c5 leads to d7 again, and rook to e8. So I can't do that. So I say, you know what? I have to play g4. I have to keep pushing my pawns, because if I push my pawns, it will present a sense of fear to NiceChessD. So I said, it's better to give a sense of fear to NiceChessD than give nothing. So after king to g2, I played rook to d2. And to be honest, I could have also played probably f5. I could have also played I don't know. Ooh, another move I could have also played is b6, and this one actually works because after takes b6, I have rook takes, and after b7, I have this very clever move, rook to b6, sliding in between the two passers and winning the pawns if necessary. So this b6 move is a move I could have done, but I didn't. I played the move rook d2. I wanted to keep the king on the last rank. And I played g3 here, and to be honest, I did not see what came next for NiceChessD. I thought this game was a total draw. Like, I'm going to be completely honest, I said, if you just play king g1, king h1, this, I'm not going to make much progress here. I might play like h2, but that's it. I won't make progress. It's going to be a really sad day for me. So I didn't really know what to do because my king, well, it can't really go over here. So one day it might hop over here. I didn't know that. I didn't know anything right now. So I just completely assumed, you know what? This is a draw, I think. But c6 happened. And after b takes c6, b6. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, this works. And so after I was thinking, do I have the time to play h4, b7, and I don't have time. But here, apparently, the computer says, if you put the pawn to h3, and you include the queen, and you play d7, I actually have a chance. Like, wow. Because I have check, 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 check. Wow. Just wow. But after b6, rook takes d6, and all of a sudden, b7, and this was the move that I missed. NiceChessD played this brilliantly. Rook to a1, king to g7, rook to a8, simply boxing me out. And here I said, what if I play g2? And this loses because of queen, queen, queen to h8, right? King to g6 and rook to g8, getting the queen. And if I play rook to e1, king to d2, g1 queen, queen to h8, king to g6, same thing happens with rook to g8. So I said I can't do that. So rook to d1, rook to b1, sacked it, and I just hope for the best. I know this endgame is completely losing. But I played on because we both had very low time, and there were tricks in the position, right? For example, king takes g3. This move is losing. It looks winning. It looks completely winning. The pawn is falling apart. But I have the move f4 check. And all of a sudden, if rook takes f4, the pawn queens. And if king to g2, the rook is lost. So I still have tricks in my bag, right? But after king to f4, h1, I really have no tricks in my bag. I mean, at this point, I'm lost, right? But it's important to say, why am I losing this position, right? What is the technique to win this position? And to be honest, this is the technique. g2. So I'm threatening here and here, right? But all you have to do is say, king to f2. Simple as that. King to h2, rook h4 checkmate. So there's multiple ways of winning this endgame, but I have to say, I'm going to feature this in a separate video about how to work on endgames, and it's going to be a very interesting puzzle, but I have to say, I was very pleased with how NiceChessD played. I played not so great, but that's okay. We have fun. We are here to play each other and have the curiosity. I'll see you next time.